Back here, one person is dead and another was arrested after a crash involving two snowmobiles in Iron County, Wisconsin. According to the sheriff's office, it happened around 8:15 Friday night on a trail just south of Hurley, which is about 35 miles southeast of Ashland. Authorities say a 52-year-old man had been traveling with a 20-year-old man along the trails there. At one point, the 52-year-old rode ahead and the 20-year-old ended up running into the back of his snowmobile. The 52-year-old died at the scene and the 20-year-old was arrested on suspicion of driving intoxicated. Charges are expected to be filed. Authorities have not shared the names of anyone involved yet or how the two knew each other.